Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 most important resources that you need in Starfield. I'll be showing you the easiest way to get your dirty little mitts on these resources, as some of them require specific steps and also spawn in specific locations. But not only that, I'll be showing you what they're used for, so strap into your seat and let's jump straight into it. The first resource I'd like to talk about is for all you stealthy boys out there, and it is called Caelumite. This is necessary to create the Gravitech Composites mod, which is going to allow you to reduce the detection from enemies and NPCs. And what is even better is the fact that it stacks with stealth and concealment skills. And if you don't care much for stealth, don't worry, because this sells for 264 credits a pop, so your bath will be filled with credits in no time. Unlike other Starfield resources, Caelumite cannot be found lusciously on planets or bought in shops. Instead, it's tied into artifact locations and places called gravitational anomalies. But due to the fact that Starfield is procedurally generated, it's harder to pinpoint the gravitational anomaly locations. So here is a couple of Caelumite easy to access locations. You have Abandoned Mine, which is in the Perima star system on the planet Perima 4C. You have the Argos Extractors mining outpost, which is in the Narian star system on the planet Victera. The Empty Nest, which can be found in the Caelumite star system on the planet Aquila. Now do keep in mind, in these specific locations, the Caelumite's going to be found around the artifact's location. So gun it straight to the end of these locations and you'll be away laughing. Now time for the resource that's attached itself to 54 crafting recipes that we know so far. And if not the most commonly used resource in the game, we have aluminium, because who the hell calls it aluminum? Now if you're an outpost builder, this is going to be a very common resource that you're going to be using, as you'll be finding it in commonly used structures like your solar array and your extractors. But it doesn't stop there. We're going to head over to the research lab and we're going to find it associated with 8 different recipes. Then we're going to go over to the industrial bench and we're going to find it associated to 3 different recipes. Then we're going to walk over to the simple fabricator and again 3 different recipes. And then when we go to look at the weapon workbench and spacesuit workbench, we have 25 for the weapon and 8 for the spacesuits. It's just never ending. But lucky for everybody, aluminium is very common, with my favorite location to acquire this resource being Linnaeus 4b. This star system is located in between Olympus and Volley, and has to be one of my favorite star systems because it has a lot of the necessary resources needed, and is easily collected through extractors or just simply mining, which is the same for the next 2 common resources that I'm going to talk about, which are iron and nickel. And again, these can be all found within the Linnaeus star cluster, so you don't need to go traveling elsewhere. Now, iron is a resource that's very similar to use when comparing to aluminium. This is going to be appearing a lot in your outpost building, but also across the board in your crafting and research lab, but not to the same extent, as iron is only featured in 22 crafting recipes that we know so far, appearing in 5 outpost development recipes, 3 research lab recipes, 2 industrial workbench recipes, 2 simple fabricator recipes, and 10 weapon workbench recipes. And when I say that this resource is exceedingly common, I mean it's found on 316 different planets and moons. So there is plenty of fish in the sea for you if you're not interested in the Linnaeus star cluster. But just remember, it's going to be such an easy double resource outpost with iron and aluminium, with the added bonus of finding helium-3 if you're interested in doing your cargo links outer system. Now, if you thought iron was seriously impressive of having 316 planets, time to be more impressed, because with the next resource, nickel, we're going to be finding it on 323 planets and moons. So again, you're not going to have any issues trying to find this. Nickel has very similar uses to aluminium and iron and can be found in 25 different crafting recipes. We're looking at 2 outpost development recipes, 3 research lab recipes, 3 industrial workbench recipes, 3 fabricator recipes, 13 weapon workbench recipes, and 1 spacesuit mod. So by now you should be starting to see a very common pattern, that these common resources are used throughout everything. But if you're not really into the outpost building or collecting resources, this can all be easily done by visiting a general store around the settled systems. You can head over to Aquila City and find a place called Midtown Minerals, where you're going to be able to purchase all 3 of the resources of aluminium, iron and nickel. Or you could head over to the Mining League, which is found in Neon City, which is in the Volley star cluster. Again, you'll be able to purchase all 3 of the resources of aluminium, iron and nickel, and that is just to name a few of the places. With the next resource I'm going to talk about, this really pushes the point about aluminium and iron, because these resources are required to create this. And the resource I'm talking about is a manufacturing resource called adaptive frame. This resource is going to be extremely crucial for your outpost building, but also it's attached to 6 different crafting recipes in the research lab, and it only costs 1 iron and 1 aluminium to create. The beauty about this resource is that it's created in a multitude of ways. You could head over to the industrial workbench and spend the resources and get yourself a little amount of XP, or you can simply create a simple fabricator and get an automated system flowing, which is the way that I would recommend to do it. Which again brings me back to the importance of the Linnaeus 4B planet double resource aluminium and iron outpost, meaning we don't have to worry about cargo links shipping resources from here to there. All we're going to be doing is creating an output link from your extractors to the fabricator, which then links to a storage warehouse, and there you have it, a simple adaptive frame automated system. Alternatively, you can connect your extractors to certain storage boxes and then create output links from there to the simple fabricator. This way you're going to be collecting iron and aluminium, but at the same time you're going to be collecting adaptive frames. Simply a 2 birds with 1 stone scenario. The next resource that I'm going to be talking about is your structural materials. This resource is one of the basic building blocks that many of Starfield's craftable items are built upon, and funny enough, it's one of the resources that is most likely skipped past the most, simply for the fact that this resource primarily comes from plants and animals, which means that it has a random drop chance. Now, there are farming methods to get this, but why would you need to do that when you can simply purchase this at the general store? And what is even better about this fact that it's only going to cost you 6 credits for 1 structural material. And by heading to the general store Jemison's Mercantile in New Atlantis, you're going to have a 0 issue whatsoever getting this product. Now, structural material is used in 2 crafting recipes, 1 in the research lab and 1 in the cooking station, but is a material that is highly used in the outpost building system as well. So don't bother with trying to farm this material, just head to a general store and you're good to go. And it's just an added bonus that it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Speaking of purchasing resources, this leads me on to my next 2, lubricant and polymer. These are both legendary resources and can be very hard to find while you're out traveling the settled systems. This is why I suggest again that you purchase these from a general store. With the price point of polymer being 20 and the price point of lubricant being 18, again, you're not really stretching your wallet just to purchase these materials, whereas if you went to try and find them in the settled systems, you'll be stretching your time. But do just keep in mind that each general store do vary in price, with some shop location examples being Jemison Mercantile and UC Distribution Centre on Jemison, and also Shepherd's General Store in Aquila City. And for those stores to refresh, remember, all you need to do is wait 24 hours and you're good to go. Now, polymer is used in 16 different crafting recipes, 1 being in the research lab, 10 being in the weapon workbench, and 5 being in the spacesuit workbench. And when we look at lubricant, this is used in 10 different crafting recipes, 3 in the research lab, and 7 in the weapon workbench. And what separates these resources from the rest is the fact that these are primarily used for crafting mods. With our next resource, this is very similar to the adaptive frame. We're going to need 2 resources to help create this product. I present to you Zero Wire. This is a manufacturing resource that is used in 28 crafting recipes, with 7 coming from the research lab, 19 coming from the weapon workbench, and 2 coming from the spacesuit workbench. And to create the Zero Wire, we're looking at 1 copper and 1 silver. Now, a good location to be finding both of these resources, we're going to be heading to the Cayenne star cluster, and the planets we're going to be looking at are Skink and Krag. Now, the reason why I'm recommending these 2 planets is A, you can get both the resources on them, and B, you can access these very early on in the game. And we can replicate what we did with the aluminium and iron outpost and make a 2 resource outpost, but this time for silver and copper. And again, we're going to be connecting our extractors to the simple fabricator, then the simple fabricator to our storage warehouses, and there you have it, an automated system for your Zero Wire resource. And again, zero wire can be purchased from a general store for roughly around 52 credits, but I would recommend creating an automated system like this. It gives you a lot more freedom in terms you don't have to lug these from store to store, and you're always going to have a supply. And for the final resource, we have titanium. This is a rare resource that can be found on 41 planets or moons, and is used in 31 different crafting recipes. 5 coming from the research lab, 23 coming from your weapon workbench, and 3 coming from your spacesuit workbench. Now, an important note to take away is the fact that titanium is a rare resource, so it's going to be a lot harder to come by on the planets. So if you're an eager mineral hunter, here are a couple of early locations that you can head to find this resource. The first star cluster that you can head to is Sol. Here you'll find 2 planets, Titan and Pluto, that have this resource. And if you head just below Sol, you're going to be finding a star cluster called Procyon. And inside this cluster, you're going to be finding a planet called Procyon 2 that also has this resource. And the reason why I'm recommending this planet is the fact that it only has 3 resources attached to it, meaning that you possibly have an easier chance of finding this in the biomes. Personally, I'll suggest for you just to buy this resource. It has a price that sits roughly around 12 credits and can be found in 5 different stores. We have 2 stores in Jemison, which are Jemison Mercantile and UC Distribution. Then we can head over to Neon City, which has an additional 2 more stores, which are Sagard's Outfitters and the Mining League. And on top of that, we have Clint's Collectibles in Gagarin and also Midtown Minerals in Aquila City. And again, simply by waiting 24 hours, these stores will then repopulate with resources, making it a lot more easier than trying to find it on a planet. And there you have it, your top 10 needed resources in Starfield. Are there any resources that you think should replace these? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button because there's plenty of more Starfield in the tank. And until the next one, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and remember, buckle in boys, because we're going to space.